right, Nicholas, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Brandon, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Actually, your last name, is it, how do I pronounce it?
Pelecanos.
Pelecanos. Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Nicholas
yeah.
Pelecanos.
Greek last name. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Where are you based?
So I'm in London. I am Australian though. And then I've got Greek heritage, so I'm all over the place.
Yeah, how did that happen? How'd you get to London?
It's actually like it's a little bit of a mess around, to be honest.
Mhm.
Kind of ties into my Nem story as well. Prior to Nem, I was, I still have my own consultancy in the space doing primary and secondary market transactions. Nem Ventures was one of my biggest clients. And when they when they sort of took the reins of the blockchain to sort of prepare for the Symbol launch, they asked me to come across and help out with that. So the guy who's the CFO is named Ian, and he lives in London. So I flew across in February of 2020 to work with him so we could be in the same room and stuff. February 2020, right? March 2020, whole world goes into lockdown. And I've been locked down in London since. So, and Australia's the only place in the world where where it's completely normal. So it was a bad trade. For a trader, it was a real bad trade.
Mhm. Yeah, I bet you wish you probably were back there right now.
Yeah. Actually, I do. I would like the heat and stuff, but whatever. The thing about not being there and being locked down in London is I have no choice but to focus on work. There's no room for distractions. So, hey, in a bull market, that's good.
Yeah, I heard you guys were locked down pretty hard in London. Like I talked to a few other people or interviewed a few other people for the podcast. They're also from London, UK. And
Hmm.
yeah, they just talk about how the lockdown sucks. They can't really do anything and you can't go from like
Yeah.
city to city. Like, has that improved at all?
Man, I don't. No, I don't think so. But I live right in London. Like all the people I know are here in London. So the only thing I wanted to do was sort of
Mhm.
travel around Europe, which I will do as soon as we can. I'm out here, but I'm going to the Greek islands, and I'll be there. Hopefully, it times with the top. Hopefully, it times with the top of the bull market. You know, bull market peaks,
Mhm.
and then London and Europe opens up travel, and then I got actually nothing to do, so I can just travel around Europe, and I've got my bull market money, so it'll be a good time.
Mhm. Nice. Yeah, if Nem, I guess, goes up tremendously in this bull market, no lockdown ends, might as well go for a little European tour, right? Go on vacation.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Hey,
I'm gonna do.
it's no if, man. I think I don't know what we're up on the year, but I think potentially like 100% on the year already. No, it'd be more than that, wouldn't it? Anyway, we're up a
Yeah.
lot on the year. So we've got a sort of.
Mhm.
I don't know how sort of aware you are of all the events happening with Nem, but
Mhm.
we're kind of releasing our blockchain, like our Ethereum 2.0 version, called Symbol on the 15th of
Mhm.
March. There's going to be a snapshot of all the balances on the
Oh, okay.
NIS1 block, the XEM token. And then on the 15th, the mainnet goes live and all of those tokens are released. So everyone's buying in anticipation of that. And it's very bullish at the moment. And I'm sort of anticipating that to carry on
Yeah, I
until the
did.
12th.
Yeah, I did see it kind of moving up in the charts, and I saw these big green days. I'm like, what's going on with Nem? Because I just didn't see any like news dropping, and then started looking into it a little bit more, and I was like, what's this symbol thing? And then got
Mm.
you guys on the podcast. I'm like, God, I got so many questions to ask them. So the symbol thing, it's like an upgrade to Nem or to the main net, or what is it exactly?
Yeah. So basically, Nem is the ecosystem, and within it,
Hmm.
there's soon to be two blockchains. One is the NIS1 blockchain, NIS1, and then Symbol. So for some reason, I know the reason, but in the US, well, I'm guessing you're in the US, right? Based on the accent.
I'm
But
from the US. I'm currently in Colombia right now. You
True.
can't really, but maybe I
Well,
can
there you go.
tilt just a little bit. You can see out the window. Ah, come on,
Yeah,
auto
it's a little bit
adjust.
too bright.
Well,
I think
there's
that
a
would be
city out there.
yeah.
There's a city out there, and it's nice and sunny today. But yeah,
Well,
I'm in
lucky you.
Medellin. It's very nice.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, I mean, sort of in Latin America, we do have a bit of a community, but in the States, not so much. Um, Nem is actually older than Ethereum. So the NIS1 blockchain is one of the oldest, most secure, no downtime, no hacks blockchains in the world. And I mean, sort of the community is a lot bigger in Asia than it is sort of in the West. And that's starting to
Hmm.
change now. And I think with Symbol, that'll change a lot more as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, that blockchain is sort of has most of the functionalities you'd expect from like a you know if you had think about like the second wave of blockchains when you had like ETH and Cardano and all these types of blockchains coming through. Sort of, I would categorize it in that sort of vein rather than like you had blockchain. Sorry, you had Bitcoin and stuff like Dash, which is more just payments like chains. I mean, there's going to be some maxis that will
Hmm.
hate me saying Bitcoin do everything, but I mean, like if it was doing everything, I love Bitcoin, but people there's different chains for different functionalities, right? And that's just natural
Right.
sort of free market. That's the way it's just working out. But yeah, so basically, um, with that NIS1 blockchain, there was always talk about sort of making like the really scalable version, and that's what the devs have been sort of locked away doing since 20 I don't know, it would have been 2017 potentially. Yeah, around 2016, 2017. So it was like
Yeah.
pretty new after sort of the NIS1 blockchain emerged. The devs were like, okay, well, now we've got this. We need to make it super scalable because, as you know, like with Ethereum and stuff, and even Bitcoin, the scalability issue is sort of what hamstring is the whole ecosystem, right? So yeah, I mean, there was a
Right.
big focus on scalability, and now that's I mean, sorry. So that was the focus of like the core focus of what they were trying to fix with Symbol. But I mean, as the space has progressed, like I said, that was like 2016, 2017 they started. There's been a lot more functionalities and like needs and use cases for blockchain. So rather than being an upgrade to the NIS blockchain, it ended up being a completely new chain that's been built from bottom up. It's a completely new code
Mm-hmm.
base. Um, and yeah, the key features
Mm-hmm.
it's aiming to fix is scalability, interoperability, and then it's got a lot of sort of key features like aggregate transactions. Um, it's got hierarchical multi-sig, which is actually like really good for organizations. So you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think what like our marketing team says is like it's the enterprise grade chain. Me personally, I like to think about it as more the bridge between sort of traditional commerce and then the decentralized world. Um, and I think as we sort of trend deeper into sort of the world of blockchain and like the rest of the world wakes up to what it can do, those bridges are going to be um, they're going to be more needed, right? Like it's so hard for people to access
Exactly.
DeFi and get their head around what to do there, and like having to deal with all these chains as well. So yeah, I think what we're trying to do is kind of build more of like a unifying layer. Um, so yeah, it's quite
Mm-hmm.
exciting on the test net, just on the scalability stuff, which is kind of the main thing we test. It's hard to do an interoperability test with other chains when it doesn't exist, right? Um, but on the test net, where we were running 400 transactions a second without really giving up anything, without giving up too much decentralization, which is really fast. And when we set it live, it's going to be live at 100 transactions per second. And then sort
Mm-hmm.
of will, as it starts to like build, we'll like slowly ramp it up. We just don't want to like hit it to capacity right away because, a lot of chains when they start up,
Gotcha.
they have downtime because like they put them up and then there's an error and then they got to take the chain down. And it's actually like, I won't sort of name names and stuff, but if you do the research, a lot of like the really big chains that you like, you realize that they've had
Mm-hmm.
downtime. And so yeah, the NIS chain never had downtime. And I think that's something that we want to make sure we can keep. When the chain goes live, it's not going to be going down.
Yeah, when you say downtime, do you mean like applications and things like that just aren't functioning right and they just have to be shut down temporarily to get bug fixes? Or are you talking about like the whole blockchain?
Blockchain, yeah, yeah. So like the thing with like if you have an app or a DApp or something.
Mhm.
I mean that's kind of separate, but Symbol is a protocol, right? It's a blockchain. So yeah, I mean that's when I was making the comparison. You'll see a lot of chains. Yeah, I mean you go through and look at it. A lot of the chains that you wouldn't expect have actually had downtime in their early stages. Like they've had to pull the chain, so it's just down.
Interesting. I didn't know that. That's a good explanation, though. It's kind of funny since like 2017. Like I knew Nem existed. Like it was always kind of in the top 10, top 15 on like Coin Market Cap. So I was like, I always had like a little bit of Nem in like one of my bags. I was like always watching it. Like I wonder if this will like take off one day. Like will they be like the next big blockchain? And then like after 2017, you guys kind of disappeared. And like where'd they go? Where'd
Yeah,
they go?
yeah.
So it's cool to see that you guys got some fun developments coming out and Symbol too. So with Symbol, that just sit on top of the Nem blockchain like a layer?
No, no, no. So it's completely new chain. It's a completely new blockchain,
Okay.
new code base, and everything. So the NEM ecosystem will have two chains. It'll have the NIS1 chain, which
Hmm.
is the current chain with XEM, and it will have the new Symbol chain, which is like got all the bangs and whistles and whatnot. Um,
Hmm.
and that will have the token XYM, and they'll both still exist. So the NIS1 blockchain with XEM will continue to exist, and there's sort of like if you need to sort of have like a decentralized application that's doesn't need like all the bells and whistles, um, you'll probably
Hmm.
build it on them because it's super cheap to run on that NIS1 chain. But if you sort of want to have more advanced
Hmm.
functionalities and you need more scalability, you'd probably build on Symbol.
Got it. Is Symbol going to have a token?
Yeah, so that the token is XYM, and how you get XYM. I mean, I guess before it lists is all of the XEM tokens, right? So there's the NIS1 blockchain.
Hmm.
XEM is the token. On the 12th of March, so what'll be the 4th, in 8 days, there's going to be a snapshot
Oh,
of all of the XEM account balances. And then on the
uh-huh.
15th of March, the Symbol mainnet will go live, right? Which is it's a new blockchain, and all of
Hmm.
the balances of XEM will be credited one to one with XYM on the new blockchain. So easy way to think about it
Hmm.
is one XEM today will equal one XEM plus one XYM on the 15th of March, which is actually my birthday as well. So I mean, hopefully it's a good day. I don't want
Nice.
to be dealing with any shit on
That sounds like it's going to be a very big day. That's a good birthday to have an airdrop on the
Yeah,
protocol you're working on. That's awesome. Yeah. So okay. So I have until March 12th to get myself a snapshot so I can get some XYM. Correct.
correct. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just on that, if you have your XEM on an exchange that is supporting Symbol and has opted in the wallet, you can just leave it there, and they'll take care of all of the crediting and the opt-in and whatnot. So on our website, nem.io, and then also on our Twitter, which is at nem official, you'll see that we've posted all of the exchanges that you sort of need. But I mean, all the big guys are there, um, and not all of them are listing it yet. But I mean, I imagine those announcements will come out. Like the trading volumes for XEM at the moment are like $1.5 billion a day, which is quite high for an alt.
Hmm.
And if you're an exchange, you definitely want some of that $1.5 billion.
Yeah. What's the circulating supply going to be initially for XYM when it comes out? Because I know that can dictate a lot of people's opinions on whether or not they want to do the snapshot or jump in and invest right away. Because I imagine there'll be a lot of people that buy Nem at the last minute to get that snapshot.
Yeah, so it's going to be exactly the same, or more or less the same as the NIS one. So because we're just snapshotting all the tokens over.
Right.
So that chain has, what is it? It's like 9 billion tokens, which is a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's actually too many in my opinion. But I mean, the thing is, that's why it's a cheap. Like, it's, you look at market cap, you don't look at price. So a lot of people have a thing with the circulating supply, but if you just hold more, it doesn't really matter. Because it's sort of it's equivalent, right? Like people like YFI. Everyone's like, oh, it's so expensive. Oh, it's like there's not that many. That's why it's so expensive. You just break it down. It's market cap. You look at you don't look at price. I think a lot of people, and because a lot of people in the crypto market are so new to sort of trading and whatnot, they're like, oh, the price. But it's like, if you buy on price, you're gonna get smacked around. I mean, there's two things, right? There's circulating supply, and then there's like the total supply and circulating supply, and you got to kind of look at both of those. I don't actually have the numbers on the top of my head, but we do have a tokenomics document out there publicly on our website. You can go and check all this stuff. I mean, I could actually bring it up, but I'll need a computer, so I'll just tell people to look up, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a link to it, send it to me if you have a link.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, the main thing is a lot of the balances are getting shipped over, but what's kind of different in the tokenomics is the inflation. So it's again, like, it's got a max supply, but the inflation schedule will sort of mimic that of BTC, but rather than the block reward, the halving happening every sort of, what is it, like 4 years or whatever it is. It's going to happen. I think it happens sort of every 3 months or something like that. But I'll get you that document rather than people listening to this and being like, oh, I'm taking it for gospel. I didn't write the tokenomics. So I've read it, but it's the figures have slipped past me.
Yeah, no worries. Have you guys ever considered doing like a token burn, given how many you have kind of floating around in total supply or circulation? Or is that something you guys are able to do, or just kind of curious?
Yeah, I mean, well, anyone can do it, right? All you have to do is send your tokens to the Genesis address. Do you want to burn? If you've got a bunch of tokens, do you want to burn your tokens? Probably not. So like there's like a big pool of tokens that is sort of used for the benefit of the ecosystem, and it's up for community vote. If there's enough demand, because we're decentralized, right? Anyone in the community can sort of put a proposal forward and then try and get things to happen. So, I mean, if there's demand there, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, we just take a bunch of the sort of ecosystem funds and just burn them. But I mean, they're already sort of out of supply because they're sort of just sitting in a wallet, and they're used every so often, rarely, to sort of fund things. No, but I mean, I'm open to it, and like I said, it's decentralized. Anyone can put forward a proposal, and you get enough votes, it can happen.
Yeah, you could put a proposal forward, I think, correct, to do like a burn of the uncirculated tokens. Like, is that possible? And just make like an update?
Yeah. I mean, all of this stuff's possible. So I guess this is another good feature with NIS1 and Symbol, is like sort of one of the pioneering chains of what do we call it? POI voting. So like proof of importance. So it's like, how important is your wallet? And if your wallet's been around for a long time and it transacts a lot and it's voted in previous votes, like, you get more importance because obviously you care more about the ecosystem. You're more engaged in the ecosystem. So this is like another feature that'll continue over to Symbol, and anyone can get involved. And I mean, honestly, it's something that it has been discussed It's definitely been discussed. Like,
Mhm.
but what's the purpose? And perhaps, once we see what the proper commerce looks like on Symbol, then we can get a bit better idea of what the supply should be. But see, the thing is, um, when these core devs built, like way early on, when it was sort of first created, Nem was meant to be like the backbone infrastructure for the digital age, and because of that, I think they felt they needed a high circulating supply, because the end goal is that you've got all these people using it, and like the thing with Bitcoin being like the global currency, which potentially could be it one day, but how does that look like when you're transacting? It's like you want to buy, like even today, you want to
Exactly.
buy, say you wanted to buy a piece of gum, a packet of gum, which is like $1, right? You go, well, it's going
Mhm.
to be 0.0000 whatever Bitcoin. And I think that was the
Sure.
reason why we had the high supply. But I mean, we can see it's all
Mhm.
sort of an evolving ecosystem, evolving economy. So what's the right thing to do today is maybe not the right thing to do tomorrow, and what was the right thing to do 2 years ago is probably not the right thing to do today. So I mean, it's evolving, and like I said, anyone can put forward a proposal, and the community wants it all happen. We're decentralized.
Yeah, I think token burns are interesting. I'm not necessarily against them or for them, but it's like people get all caught up with the fact that, obviously you want whatever you're holding to go up in value because you're investing so much time into it. So like I can understand it from like that perspective. Um,
Hmm.
but it's like once you get to like the level of demands for Nem, for example, or for that blockchain, that level of interest, it's going to go up naturally regarding how much is in circulation because it just becomes a supply issue. Like a lot of these exchanges right now, they've had some serious liquidity issues and supply issues in terms of certain cryptos because they couldn't provide them as quickly, and then it would jack up the prices on some of the exchanges. So there's some throttling that was going on there. But same thing with Nem. I know one day you could have tons of Fortune 500 companies in the U.S. that want to use it, right? And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, they're all buying
That's the
up
goal.
Nem. Yeah, they're all buying
Yeah.
up Nem and XYM with Symbol, and they're all trying to build stuff at the same time. That supply is
Hmm.
going to come down very quickly from
Hmm.
public exchanges, and price is going to go up regardless. So I always tell people like the total market cap you see, it's always this arbitrary number because it can always
Hmm.
change and it all depends
Hmm.
on supply. So
Hmm. But I mean, that's an interesting point, on sort of Fortune 500 companies like buying the asset. This is something that sort of clicked with me, when when MicroStrategy started to put BTC onto the balance sheet. Is
yeah.
like MicroStrategy's doing it because they're like, oh well, it's an inflation hedge, and then now I think it's sort of evolved into something else. Like I think potentially maybe he's dug himself a little bit of a hole, and he just needs to keep feeding the beast, otherwise his company goes busto. But I mean, like
Hmm.
long term, it's probably a good decision. But short term volatility, I'm sure that guy's having some sleepless nights when we get the 30% pullbacks. But what
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I mean,
that's what
I could tell him one thing. I'd just be like, welcome to crypto. I just be like, welcome to
yeah,
crypto because that's like how we all feel. We all buy Bitcoin
yeah,
and we hold our breath, hope it goes up, right? So
yeah, yeah. But here's the thing, right? So to say that's the inflation hedge, where I see the future going with all of these like decentralized applications, and sort of this is kind of where I see Symbol fitting in. How I sort of started this off saying that it's kind of like the bridge, or the like unifying layer, with crypto, is if you're like a Fortune 500 company, or just like a smaller company, right, and you're using one of these public chains, you need to hold the token, right? So therefore, you need to have that asset on
right.
your balance sheet. It's not a strategic investment like maybe MicroStrategy's doing, but it's something that's needed, right? Because if you want to operate whatever
Hmm.
infrastructure you built on chain, you need that asset. And then it's kind of like a domino effect. I feel like, and this is the beautiful thing about crypto is the network effects that get built in. When you have sort of a big logistics company move on chain and they're running a lot of their systems on chain, public chain, it's going to just force all of the smaller partners they have to start running on chain as well. And then, you don't need too many big players to move on chain until you have like a serious amount of people on chain, and they all need to hold the asset on their balance sheet, which is like a whole another bullish narrative that people are completely sort of blind to at the moment. And this is sort of what's exciting me now, and particularly with Symbol, is like we're kind of on the cusp. If I kind of look through crypto through the lens of the adoption curve, and I don't know if you've seen the adoption curve. If anyone's listening that don't know what the adoption curve is this video or is this just audio, by the way?
It's video and audio. I mean, unless you prefer just audio, but it's up to you.
Okay. Oh, well, just because I was going to sketch it out in my hand.
It's recording.
So if you can see me and you're looking at this, adoption curve is like a bell. It's got like 5 segments, right? So it's got innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, laggards, and then I think there's like a first one or whatever. But I just say innovators is the first one, right? Because I've been in crypto for some time now, I sort of see these different cycles playing out over and over. And I mean, it's like a fractal. Like they're within themselves and they're without themselves. These adoption curves. So for every innovation, you'll have innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority. For every innovation, but also for the technology itself, it will follow that. So where I think we are in crypto is like we've had the innovators. And sort of early adopters was kind of last cycle, right? And I think this cycle is kind of the end of that early adopters segment, and next cycle is early majority, right? Or this turns out to be like some super cycle that crosses over into early majority. But what's the early majority look like? And it's that. It's when you have Maersk shipping owning Ethereum or Symbol because they just need to run their supply chains, or DHL is doing all these little tiny micro transactions on chain and to communicate with some guy's Amazon store or something like this. It's just going to be some crazy like infrastructure going on in the background, but all of the participants will need to own the asset, and whoever captures those network effects, you're going to see crazy returns on that currency.
Oh yeah. Where do you think Nem is in terms of that, adoption curve? Because I feel like some projects are a lot farther ahead than others, and some are smoke and mirrors. Some are like the real deal. Like, where do you think Nem sits in terms of, because it's been kind of quiet the last few years, and then now it's going through what seems like some big change and getting a lot of attention again. Where do you think it kind of sits?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. I think there's a few things there that, to answer. I mean, the first is like to address is the sort of quietness, right? Which is like it's a fair observation. Basically, I think all blockchains had a bit of a rocky past, and take from that what you will. But like I said, my client was the Nem Ventures team, not the Nem Foundation. And when the Nem Ventures team sort of took the reins of the chain, I was like, okay, that's a team that I can really back and get behind. And I think since sort of that, and so they've like Nem groups formed, and that's what I'm part of. But like since then, that's when you start to see like the explosion in sort of activity on chain and just partnerships and everything. It's because it's kind of revitalized it. I think it was more or less, you could say it was kind of like mismanaged or misguided, or I don't know what it is, but something slowed it down, and that's sort of certainly changed. And I mean, you can see that in the price, right? When Nem Group took the reins of the chain, right? And when, again, we're not like we dictate everything because it's decentralized. We kind of just we're here to deliver symbol and then whatever's next. But we came in at like 4 cents, or it was like 3-4 cents, and now it's at like what, 80 cents. So it's like, yeah, things are starting to change. Where is Nem in the adoption curve? Well, we're certainly behind Ethereum. I can tell you that much, right? And behind BTC, of course, right? And so this raises the question: it's like, why do you need Nem? Like, what's it do? Like, why can't we just have Ethereum? But yeah, it's just that the space is lacking that unifying layer. The space is lacking sort of cheap, fast transaction, and the space is lacking easy functionality, right? And this is something that was very popular with the NIS chain when it first came. It was plug and play. People would go in there and make these applications, right? And rather than having to be specialized in like a unique programming language like Solidity, with Symbol, it still has that plug and play functionality. So you can just you can come on there and build an application without having too much an understanding of like a deep understanding of programming languages. But beyond that, it supports multiple programming languages. So if you're in an enterprise and you want to use blockchain functionality, you can come onto the Symbol chain and you can just build whatever you want in whatever language you're used to, and it's not going to be expensive to run. A, it's not going to be expensive to run, and B, because it's easy to build on, and because it's easy to build on and cheap to run, those network effects can really blow up. So if you have like a partner company that you need to be running this application or infrastructure stack with, they can get involved quite easily as well. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I see it sort of fitting in. So where is it in the adoption curve? Well, I mean, Symbol doesn't exist yet, so it's going to be in that innovator stage. But I will say, we have quite an effective tech consulting team that's sort of bringing development on chain. I think sort of one of the more notable projects was when the Lithuanian central bank issued the first central bank digital currency on chain, and they're going to be using some of the Symbol blockchain. Like, it was on the NIS1 chain, but they're running Symbol tech in the background. And that was last year, right? So, I mean, when you have governments building on chain, that's something else. And that actually, like, when I think sort of other governments saw that like it's possible to do this like CBDC on chain, it wasn't like we had a few sort of governments coming in and there's discussions there and stuff. I mean, I can't say any more than that, but I think that's sort of interesting, right? Like, sure, the narrative we're pushing is not like it's not where like an Ethereum killer. It's not, and I don't think anyone in our team sees the space like that. Really, how I think the space will look similar to the internet today, right? So you've got all of these different layers and protocols talking to each other. Like when you go into the internet, like HTTP, and then you've got HTML, and you've got all of these different sort of protocols talking to each other. And I think that's how the sort of blockchain sort of Web 3.0, if you want to call it that, looks. It's like you'll have these different chains for doing these different things, and this chain will be used for talking to that chain, and this will be more for like logistics, and this will be for finance, and this will be if you want to have something really really decentralized, and if you want to have something that is completely anonymous, there's also all of these chains, which if you look at it from a bird's eye view, that's what it looks like now. It's just all of those functionalities are going to start to get tied together more and more as it evolves. And, as a user looking at the front end, you won't realize what's going on in the back end, much like AI is today. Like when you're texting, you don't realize it. Well, maybe you realize it, but most people don't realize it, but they're using an AI right there. That predictive text that's an AI algorithm. So there's a lot of really crazy tech, that we use every day that we just don't realize it. And that's probably what blockchain ends up looking like.
Yeah, that will be blockchain. It'll be that tech that runs and helps power everything, and we just don't even know it's there anymore. But it'll also have its public side too. But you don't think there'll be one chain to rule them all? You think there'll be a diverse amount of competition?
Yeah, yeah. And like there'll be certain chains that are used for certain function, yeah, like I said, certain functionalities. Like I think Ethereum as the ultimate decentralized chain is like a great narrative, and I that's how I view it. Like if you want to have like a really decentralized application, which is it's needed, particularly in sort of like the emerging world, like emerging economies. You might have heard about what's happening in like Africa and even in Latin America
Hmm.
with a lot of like decentralized applications. Um, yeah, so I mean that's kind of what Ethereum will look like, and there's other chains that will sort of fit in around that. But because of how Symbol's built, it's really easy to run hybrid chains with it. So I don't think people will look at Symbol and be like, I mean, you can build a completely decentralized application, but I just think because of the functionalities and toolkits you have available on that chain, people will look at it and be like, okay, well, I'm going to build this decentralized app and then plug it in to this financial infrastructure that already exists, and I'm going to use Symbol Chain to do that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's going to be all sort of different sort of verticals where you'll see a different chain will have some sort of dominance, but yeah, the one chain to rule them all is probably going to be Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the oldest, and I mean BTC dictates the market, right? So in some
Yeah.
sense, as much as
Well,
Bitcoin can rule, that
Bitcoin's
will be the
yeah, Bitcoin's really simple, and it's also one of the first movers, and people just have so much faith and trust in it. I just don't ever see it really going away. It's probably always going to have that intrinsic value. I think at this point, it'd be unfair to say that it isn't a store of value. It outperformed everything the last decade, best asset of the last decade.
mm,
So I, it could be used for payments too in the future. It's not out of question. Like, I don't know, let's say Lightning Network, becomes a really
mm,
big thing and everyone's using it. Then, yeah, I guess people could use Bitcoin at Starbucks and to
mm,
buy a donut, right? But
mm,
the reality is, it'll probably be for smaller transactions. Like, transaction volume will probably come down, is my guess, and it'll be used every
mm,
day. And then my other guess is like with Ethereum, I, because it's so early for it back in the day, it was a first mover. Sometimes that's a disadvantage because everyone can figure out how to build something better. And there's a lot of good projects like Nem, for example, that are figuring out how to build something better. And Ethereum is just not coming to consensus, which is funny in this space when everything's about consensus.
mm,
No, in my opinion, I think Ethereum will probably end up being like the NFT platform where people, you know, build out dApps for like collectibles and stuff like that. And it'll probably always be fairly low volume with some high fees, but they'll fix some of that stuff in time. But I think where, enterprises and governments and corporations, institutions, where they ended up investing their money speculatively, building stuff, it'll probably be places like Nem and Symbol, and some other blockchains as well that kind of fit the same niche because they'll just be better. They'll be able to scale and they'll be cheaper and it'll make more sense. It's just kind of how I envision this market shaping out in the future.
mm. Oh, I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right. That's why we're building it, so it gets used.
How do you think Nem, or I guess Nem and or Symbol do or will stack up with, I guess, competition in the space? Because I mean, there's a few other blockchains I can think of up top of my head that are kind of going for like the same target market, I guess, like Cardano, for
Mm,
example, or Hedera, or I guess ETH 2.0 if it can actually get there. But how do
mm.
you feel Nem and Symbol stack up competitively?
Yeah, so I guess it goes back to sort of my thesis on how the space ends up looking. Um, yeah, I mean, I kind of think that the way ETH's built and the way that because it is like such as it's this big beast with all these different parties all building different things. Um, it's just going to end up being like this really decentralized chain that does a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing about being someone like being in our position is because you're small, you're more agile, and yeah, I mean we have like because we have such a tight community, we can just push things through easy, and we can focus and we can target things. So I mean, yeah, so I mean that's with ETH, right? I just think it's like this big beast, and all these people will do these different amazing things on ETH, but as a chain, it's not going to be pigeonholed. And I think what we'll see with Symbol is it kind of just ends up being like that unifying layer, you know. And like,
Hmm.
so you think about like Cardano as well. They're kind of trying to do. I feel like they're more similar to trying to do what ETH is, but I mean, no one's really. I mean, this is the thing. No one really builds on anything apart from ETH. Anything with substance. Like it's the same with our chains. Like the biggest applications we have built on chain are enterprise applications, right? Like I was talking about with the Lithuanian central bank, like stuff like that. Um, we don't have Uniswap, and Uniswap is such a crazy like invention. If you think about like what
Hmm.
that is, it's actually amazing because you have this decentralized application that's sometimes its volumes rival Coinbase, right? There's no
Sure.
like central party managing it. It just exists. Anyone can go on and use it. Uh, so I think that's like you need these apps on chain that sort of like these killer apps that drive adoption. And I think when you're if you're a developer and you want to build like a decentralized application, you probably just go where the network effects are. And I think that's why ETH ends up just being like this sort of really decentralized thing because everyone's just going to be building there. And these other smaller chains, unless they just are way better. And I think a lot of people, we've got people coming over to us now who've said to us, like, yeah, we wanted to build on ETH, but it's just too expensive for what we want to do. And a lot of what they're trying to do isn't like decentralized finance because ETH owns decentralized finance. Or for instance, with Eng, like Engine, they're like a good chain for NFTs. People building their NFTs. Um, so with Symbol, I guess we'll see how it plays out. But I know like we've got people coming over from all different sort of verticals, like bar DeFi because I think most of DeFi is there. Well, I haven't heard of anyone coming over who's in DeFi yet, to say the least. But we've got all these people coming from different verticals wanting to build on chain. But I think what we'll see is like that enterprise drive, and I think we'll sort of see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, zeroing in on Uniswap for just a second, that's one of the coolest and one of the most amazing applications I've seen built on blockchain personally, just because it's a decentralized version of what the exchanges do, and
Mm,
it's very inexpensive and it's fast. And I've used it a ton to swap tokens on Ethereum. And it's just like, can you imagine if you held a whole bunch of Apple stock and you wanted it to be in GameStop instead, and you could instantly swap that into GameStop
mm,
without having to sell and rebuy and then wait or have to deal with a wash rule period or an inquiry or
mm,
even, on an exchange, going through all those extra steps, being able to do it so fast. I don't know. To me, that's
mm.
just
Yeah,
incredible.
but it's not just it doesn't just end there, right? So the thing with the space is, yeah, like this is kind of what sort of bummed me out in 2017 is like you had all these applications coming in, but
Hmm.
all of them needed to have like some hotshot market maker who was just like some traditional finance finance company. right?
Sure.
Doing the market making. But also, like every year, I mean, everyone sort of heard about what exchanges were charging these like applications to list, right? Like you're talking six figures listing fees and whatnot. When really, like, doesn't really cost that much money. I'm sure there's dev work, but it's um, so yeah, to see sort of that those sort of cartels, like these big market makers and like the exchanges, like lose out a little bit to decentralized. Because I mean, this is the thing. It bummed me out
Hmm.
because it was becoming so centralized on exchanges, and it's meant to be decentralized. So Dex has fixed that. The decentralized digital world can be decentralized and digital because the exchanges that aren't even controlled by anyone anymore. And like
Hmm.
exchanges, like when sort of uni started and you had all these like tokens getting a lot of volume just out of nowhere, right? It was just people experimenting. You had a lot of the big exchanges that have these really like stringent listing policies and like, oh, security, blah blah blah. Like, what is it like? We go through all these legal things. It's going to take, you're going to have to pay all this money and blah blah blah. They just instantly list them because they're like, oh shit, we're going to lose out on volumes here. We got to own some unis. We got to own some uni and some sushi and whatever other food token there is out there. So yeah, I think that was really interesting, like
Pancake
just to
swap.
observe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love
Yeah,
it. I
it's
love it.
it's been yeah, me too. It's been pretty cool to watch some of that stuff. One more question, and then we can kind of wrap up a little bit because I know we've been going for a little while. But I saw something about a global exchange trading tournament to celebrate or like commemorate symbol or celebrate symbol. Like, what is that?
Yeah, yeah, cool. So it's good you asked. Basically, we've got a lot of exchange relationships, and
Hmm.
we like the exchanges want to do trading competitions, and we're happy with that because it's good for our community. They can go in there, they can trade it, and it's a bit fun, and they can win some Zem or whatever is the prize pool. So rather than like just doing them willy nilly as they came, because we get proposals from exchanges all the time, just sort of like banked them up and said, just can you do it on this date? Um, so yeah, we got all these proposals in, said do them this date. And we would love to be throwing a party right now, like a launch party for Symbol somewhere in the world, but we can't because the whole world's locked down. So
Hmm.
this is our way of having a party. It's like a big festival, right? We're just having this digital festival where you can go and you can trade XEM anywhere. And the third wave, so it's three waves, two weeks on XEM, the third week is on XYM, and you can go and trade on any, like on all of these venues. Like there's $500,000 up. I think it's actually is going to end up being over 500,000 up for reward. Um, and you can go
Hmm.
into all these exchanges. Like there's nothing to stop you from trading on like 5 exchanges. Just go in there and try and win as many rewards as you can. And then yeah, like I said, third week is going to be on Symbol, so that's like the day it starts, the day it lists, and yeah, I mean that's going to be exciting as well. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of our way of sort of giving back, and like also having those exchange relationships and working with the exchanges gets them involved in the festivities as well, because you know we're an ecosystem and exchange is a part of the ecosystem. So it's good that we can party with everyone virtually rather than
Right.
in real. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Sounds like a good idea too. Yeah, what exchanges are participating in that? Are U.S. exchanges doing that as well, like Binance or Bittrex or?
Yeah. So no, we don't have Bittrex. We have Binance CIS for Wave 2. We haven't announced Wave 3 yet, which is the Symbol Wave. Um, so, like, Wave 1 was more regional exchanges. Wave 2 is like your bigger names.
Mhm.
So, yeah, like, I can't say them like until they actually announce it. But,
Ah,
like,
okay.
if you go and look through everything, you can kind of get an idea of who's involved. But, we just had Binance CIS announced today. And yeah, there's a lot of exchanges, like the well-known exchanges that you would know, that are getting involved, and they're all sort of starting now as of today, which is the 4th. So yeah, I mean, just like following our Twitter, you'll see them popping up. And yeah, it's just like a core thing is giving back to the community.
Yeah, that's always good. It's always good to do. It sounds fun. Sounds exciting. I guess it's a good place to wrap up because we covered so much stuff. Um, what one more quick question. In your title, when it says head of trading, like it sounds really cool, but like what is it? Like what does that
Yeah.
mean?
So two things, right? Number one is
Hmm.
we have an internal portfolio which I manage. Number two is a lot of the like token dynamics, liquidity, um, yeah, just like a lot of the more internal trading that happens, like OTCs and whatnot. I sort of sit at the top of, um, and sort of manage that way. So yeah, I mean, really, I
Sweet.
just want to trade. But the thing is, because it's such a new industry, I ended up getting dragged into a bunch of things like organizing and trading tournaments. So yeah, I end up being across a lot of things, but main focus is sort of like my main focuses are like liquidity management, and then that internal portfolio.
Cool, cool. If people want to like follow what you guys are doing in terms of development, all these new changes and releases, where's a good place for them to go? Just the website, or is there a blog, or social media the best place, or a Discord or
Yeah, yeah,
Telegram, or
yeah. So there's a fair few. I think sort of the best place to go to sort of get the directory to all of those is nem.io, and then there you've
Mhm.
got links to like the symbol website. You've got links to our Facebook, like our LinkedIn, our Twitter, our Reddit. We've got Bitcoin Talk. Um, yeah, they're probably that. I mean, that's probably all you need. Obviously, we got Telegram, which is sort of where a lot of sort of information shared in the crypto space. So our Telegram is, I think it's Nem Red. I think that's the actual thing to search for. Um, so yeah, we got Nem
Mhm.
Red. We got Nem Traders, which is more just like trading chat. That's a Telegram channel, and we also have Nemberia, which is just like more shit posting. Um, and then
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, and then obviously Twitter, we kind of post our bigger updates. Um, so that's at Nem Official. But will you there also follow me? I think I am at the underscore N underscore source, SOURCE. And last thing is the Nem Hub, which is like our sort of internal sort of Nem website where everyone in Nem can just discuss Nem related things. So plenty of places to get info, basically.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll have you send them over later, and I'll make sure that they go into the episode description so people can easily kind of find them and pick and choose where they want to go, I guess. Nicholas, thanks for taking the time to come on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Expanding on Nem and Symbol and everything you guys are doing. It sounds very exciting. I'm excited to get in on the snapshot and get some XYM as well.